Welcome, I'm Ernie Goss, economist here with Creighton University in beautiful downtown Omaha, Nebraska. Here I am to report, this is the first business day of February, reporting on our results for January. This is a January survey of supply managers in 9 states, stretching from North Dakota and Minnesota in the north to Oklahoma and Arkansas in the south. And if you know much about this region, a lot of energy and also a lot of ag. So I'll talk about those 2 sectors and how they're affecting the overall economy. We have an overall index, which is a leading economic indicator, and I'll talk about that. It's sort of like these men and women that are reporting on for our survey. They're like the canary in the coal mine. They see things, what they see today, we'll see later on, and that's the theory. It's the national number is coming out, also comes out the first business day of the month, and we'll talk about that as well. Growth improved for the month of January compared to December. The overall index rose from 54.4, which is pretty good. I mean, I'd like to see it up closer to 60, but that's okay, to 54.8 for January. So that's a good move. I'd like to see it a little stronger. Now, why is it not stronger? Obviously, again, agriculture and energy with the strong dollar and weaker ag prices with weaker energy prices hurting those 2 sectors. Now, it's an overall gain there are more consumers that benefit from low fuel prices than there are businesses that depend on high fuel prices. But overall, those industries are affected. The wholesale price gauge, what about that? That's been coming down. And the Federal Reserve, is concerned about that. And you say, why is that? They're concerned about deflation, where men and women, businesses step back and say, why buy today? Buy tomorrow, because prices are coming down. Well, we've seen disinflation. The numbers not in negative territory, not price reductions, but the inflation, the amount of increases has been coming down. Was it 2%? Now 1.7, 1.4, 1.5% annualized. That's not good the way the Fed sees it. We asked the supply managers about expected price growth for 2015, 2.5%. Now that's well above what we saw in 2014 for the wholesale price gauge, which went up about 1.2%. So the inflation gauge but our inflation gauge did go up from 50.8, which is a 5-year low in December, to 54.9 in January, but still, that's still consistent with price growth very low. And I'd say potentially getting around the 1% range, and that, of course, is a concern for the Fed. We asked the supply managers about the biggest challenges for 2015. Well, number one was about 1/3 indicated declining customer demands. Now, you don't need an economist to tell you that's always a risk factor. 1/5, though, identified regulatory costs, rising regulatory costs, and 19.4%, also about 1/5, costs of the Affordable Care Act, and 18.1 higher input prices, and then there were percentages in other areas. Now, one of the things we did see, and here I'm going to bring up the chart over the last several months. This is the overall index again, and you see the U.S. and our Mid-America moving sort of in tandem. Now, they do get a little out of sync there, but both are in pretty good range. I'd like to see them stronger, of course. What do I expect that number to in the months ahead? I think it's going to weaken. Unfortunately, I do think it's going to weaken. Why? Because energy, agriculture, and trade, and those are all 3, of course, are connected. Now, what should you watch out for? What are some things you need to keep an eye on? In addition, of course, our monthly videos. Keep an eye on the Case-Shiller Home Price Index. That number, the year-over-year growth in the prices, has been coming down. Now, that's not a problem, but it's a problem for Congress. It's a problem for the administration, and of course, they do something. They're going to try to do something. When they do something, it's usually ill-timed and do the wrong thing. Now, what are they doing now? They're reducing the down payment for first-time home buyers. Were they asleep back in 2006, 7, and 8? Probably. Somebody was asleep, because you wouldn't be doing that again. You're increasing risk there. Also keep an eye on the number of jobs, of course, in the monthly employment report. That's the first Friday of every month, normally the first Friday of every month. But dig down, that's going to be 200,000 above, but a lot of part-time jobs, a lot of jobs that are low wage. So as a result, the more important number in that employment report is the wage growth. That's year over year. Now that would be annualized. It's been coming down, not up. It's been below 2%. If it should, in the months ahead, gets up to close to 3%, the Fed's going to come in there and take the punch bowl away from the party. They're going to raise rates. That will happen. When? We're sort of counting on June or July right now. I'm thinking it could be pushed out even more if those wage numbers remain low, the wage growth numbers. Keep an eye on the yield on the 10-year Treasury. I'm sounding like a parrot there. I keep saying that every month, but it's very important. The yields come down to 1.6%. You're going to loan this government. I mean, I'm a big, of course, as a U.S. citizen, I support the U.S., but I'm not going to buy those bonds at 1.6% for 10 years. No, not my money. But I've been wrong on that. Globally, investors are coming in to buy the healthiest horse in the glue factory. That would be our bonds. And what's causing that? Rising risk, 1.6%. Why? Greek elections on January the 25th. The big spenders were elected in Greece, and they promptly said, implied, that they might default on their sovereign bonds. As a result, the yields went up 2% within a couple of days. That's not anything to be telling global investors, that you might default, that you're going to be spending more than you should be spending, and that austerity is over. No, that's not a good move. Keep an eye on what the Russians are doing, but not in Russia. What they're doing is outside of Russia, Ukraine, and other countries as well. They say they're not there, but they are there, as we know. Both of those, what the Greeks do and what the Russians do, impact trade, and of course impact the value of the dollar, both pushing up the value of the dollar, pushing down agricultural commodity prices. Very important. Now, I like to see low fuel prices, but what goes along with that, there are some negative outcomes. Now, overall, it's positive, but there are sectors like North Dakota, states like North Dakota, where the unemployment rate is now rising number of unemployed. As a result, Oklahoma and North Dakota are going to pull our overall number down, I think, in the months ahead. Keep an eye on the dollar, as I've hammered away at today. It's rising. It's been, say, 12% growth over the last 6 months. I don't mind a strong dollar, but that's overdoing it there. It's too much. And as a result, what we have to keep an eye on, those of us who live in this part of the country and those who study it and those who are concerned about the economy in this part of the country, energy and agriculture. That would be ethanol principally, but also in North Dakota you've got oil, and you've got that natural gas in North Dakota, you've got natural gas in Oklahoma, and agricultural throughout the 9-state region, those two sectors. So it was a good report. That's for the month of January. We'll come out on the first business day of March when we'll report on our February results, and that'll be March 2nd, I think that is. That's a Monday. And until then, between now and then, may your economic cup runneth over. Ernie Goss here for Creighton University in beautiful downtown Omaha, Nebraska. Thank you.